Hello and welcome to SharpHR Career Corner with Karen Sharp Price. This podcast will inform and inspire you in your quest to find the right career path. If you're just starting out, looking to make a change in your field, or transitioning into a new career, then this podcast is for you. We'll be sharing tips and providing resources on topics such as writing resumes, interviewing, using LinkedIn, and networking. We will take a look at different careers, companies, and opportunities. You will hear success stories from professionals in all career paths, and so much more. You will leave this podcast with 3 key takeaways that you can easily put into practice. Enjoy!
Welcome to SharpHR Career Corner. I'm Karen Sharp Price. Today we're going to learn a little bit about a different path you can take using your law degree. What's so interesting is our guest today didn't take the most common path after graduation. Let's jump right in. Let me introduce you to McKenzie Higgins so that she can explain more about how her path led her to a whole different type of degree, or not degree, but a different career path. Hi, McKenzie. Thank you so much for spending some time today with us. We really appreciate this.
Hey, Karen, thanks for having me.
Thank you. I want to start back when you were in college, and where did you go to school? What degree were you thinking about at that time? And take us from there.
Sure. So I had a couple of different ideas, as many college freshmen do. When I walked into orientation, I was an adolescent education major, focusing in history. And by the time I left orientation, I was straight up political science. And then I toyed a little bit, possibly with the social work angle, possibly going back into education, but ultimately decided to stick out the poli-sci path, getting a very traditional BA in poli-sci. And I had attended Damon College for that.
Okay. So with poli-sci, what were you thinking you might do after graduation?
I knew it was more of a door opening sort of degree. Knowing that there was going to be grad school, most likely, no matter what I decided to do. A lot of people had always complimented my writing, so thinking maybe journalism, or it could lead back to education, it could lead to doctoral programs. Toyed a little bit with the thought of going into law enforcement for a little bit. And then obviously with writing and law enforcement, there's always the ultimate option of law school.
So you graduate from Damon College. What were you thinking at that point? Were you ready? Did you know what the next step was going to be?
Still keeping that option open, but ultimately deciding law school, knowing that I knew myself, I didn't want to take a break. It was, if you're going to law school, you're going now. So ultimately, even though it was some of the worst economic years we've had of recent memory, jumped right into law school right away. Started that September of 2009.
Wow. And when you were in law school, did you have a good feeling that you were home? You knew that this is where you wanted to be, or were you still trying to figure out your path while you were in law school?
First year was a lot of wandering in that abyss, not really understanding, because there were so many new things. I didn't understand tort law or civil procedure or any of that. I knew criminal law based on some family ties in law enforcement space. So I was very familiar and comfortable with that idea, but there were still so many new things that I didn't know about. So my first year was definitely wandering in some of that abyss of, okay, so I'm going to do something in law, but I'm not quite sure if it is going to be in the criminal law space. By my second year, I was pretty confident that criminal law was it, and that's where I was going to be, preferably on the prosecution side. I did some internship work there, and ultimately continued as I got my LLM in criminal law and trial advocacy. At that point, I was really, really dead set that that's what I was going to do.
Wow. So you graduate from law school and then you went on?
Yes.
Wow. And how much time does it take to go on from there?
So the LLM is 24 credit hours, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a very intense 24 credit hours. Some people take 2 or 3 credits a semester and make it a very long process, but you're not allowed to go more than 8 credits in a semester. So I did 6, and I did 4 semesters straight. So I did a winter, a summer, a fall, and a winter again.
Wow. So that would be about 5 years in law?
Yes. I
Wow.
took 1 semester off for the equivalent of 1.5 semesters off for the bar exam, to study, take it, wait for results. And then the day I got my bar results, I drove back to school to put my seat deposit down to start in January.
Wow. Now, what made you want to continue on and not just go out there and start becoming a criminal law lawyer?
So my JD experience was very regimented. Now, this is a good caveat for everybody. Not all law schools are created equal in design of their curriculum. Some schools are very research based, very writing based. Others are a lot more objective. So you're doing a lot more multiple choice. You're doing a lot more essays from the case law. So the school I attended is known for being a lot more of that regimented. Your bar topics. You're very firm in your curriculum. So I didn't get a whole lot of opportunity to do a lot of that research, which I had loved so much in undergrad. So I figured the LLM was my opportunity to get a really holistic 360 view of criminal law, really delve into it almost like a major. And get to do some of that research, get to do some of that writing, get to do those components that I really loved.
Okay. Where did you go to law school?
Western Michigan University Cooley Law School.
Wow. Okay. So then you continued on there for the next
Yeah.
degree? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in for 5 years, you come out. So
Yep.
then what is the story at that point? What did you do when you finally graduated, after 5 years in law school? What were you thinking you wanted to get into? And then what did you actually do?
So it was still eye on the prize for criminal prosecution, but not being terribly picky, we'll say at that point. I came home, and it was the immediate traditional legal job search, which that's one of the job searches that is slightly less tech advanced than other fields. There's still a lot of writing samples going out, still a lot of paper, still a lot of trips to the post office. So I was doing that. I was doing applications for legal clerking, both in private practice as well as in the judiciary, various prosecutors' offices, public defenders' offices, you name it. Again, still very much a product of the economic issues of 2008 to 2010. What happens is then 3 years later, you've got a huge pool of new lawyers waiting to enter the job market. So still doing all of his applications. I just needed a reason to get out of bed in the morning, quite honestly. I was getting a little bummed. So I went to an employment agency, and I said, what can you do? I don't care if it's a 2-week assignment, if it's a 2-month assignment. I just need to get something. I need some income. I need to feel useful again. And the agency, which is known for legal placements, even told me, you're a great candidate, but we don't have anything. But we will. As soon as we do, we will let you know. So before I even got home from meeting with the recruiters, she called me, and she's like, all right, she goes, not exactly what you want, but I think it's a really good opportunity. You're going to start on Monday doing compliance work for a state law project that a bank has. And I was like, what's compliance? What is this compliance world you speak of? And she goes, don't worry, I'm not really sure either, but they said they needed attorneys, so you'll figure it out. So that following week, I started in corporate compliance, which was a very foreign term to me and a very foreign world to me. But as the recruiter had said, I would pick up on it. So I started what should have been a 3-week assignment, got pushed out to be about 5 months.
Oh, wow.
But because the company had coded us not as contractors, but as fixed term or temporary employees, which gave us access to their internal job boards. So as I started getting my feet wet into this compliance world and noticing all of these other JDs who were permanent employees around me, talking to them and understanding how they leverage their degree, I was like, yeah, this might not be a bad place to be. So I took a wild shot in the dark and applied for a permanent position doing human resources compliance, which again, I never took an HR class and ever. Um, but employment law reads a lot like criminal law if you actually look at the way it's structured. So I was able to wrap my head around that. Took my wild shot in the dark and went in and said I'll be a compliance specialist. Let me teach me, and I will learn. I can do this. I can adapt to this environment, and that's where I started, and I've been there ever since.
Wow. Now, how many years has this been now?
So I started as the temporary legal document review analyst in August of 2014. So it's been a little over 6 years that I've
Oh my
been
gosh.
doing this.
So now looking back, do you have any regret, or do you actually like this new path? What does it give you that the other one wouldn't?
It gives me a work-life balance that my friends in traditional practice don't have for the most part. Um, I get to leave my work at work, or in this room, my laptops get to close every once in a while. Um, it's given me a really great sense of work-life balance, and then also working in a larger institution, there's that ability to move around. So I started off doing traditional human resources compliance. That morphed into human resources risk management.
Hmm.
From human resources risk management, I went to business banking risk management. So there's a
Oh,
lot of ability to gain those transferable skills to move throughout the organization. So that's one thing that I think has been a huge advantage. And like I said, the work life balance is great. The other benefits, the vacation, the PTO is a lot better because it is genuinely PTO 99% of the time. I don't have clients calling me. I don't have people emailing me at 10:30 at night usually looking for me. So it's been great to use my degree and to have a job that isn't necessarily 40 hours a week, but is still a lot more regular and regimented with a schedule.
well, and work-life balance is one of probably the biggest things that job seekers are looking for in this generation. And sometimes it's really hard to find. A lot of people are going out on their own and they're starting their own companies, and they definitely don't have it there. And with the pandemic going on right now, there's a lot of changes, and so people have lost their jobs, or people are taking on more work because other people have lost their jobs within their organization, and they don't have that work-life balance. So to say that, what you're doing, you really feel as though you can balance and have some free time and do things that you enjoy on the side. You don't have the stress. You don't feel like, oh, I should be doing this instead of wanting to do this.
Mhm.
And I think it's great that, like, you see the people that you went to school with, and it's a hard world. It's a tough world to constantly be bringing in new business for
Mhm.
yourself, along with keeping it up. And every minute of your day is calculated and counted. And you don't have that. So there are a lot of pluses to this, a lot of pluses. Um,
Absolutely.
so so what would you say, if I had to put you on a scale from 1 to 10, how happy are you that your career path took you down this road? Because it was luck, it was by chance.
Mhm.
You took a chance by going to a recruiter to see if they could help you out, never imagining that this career path was even out there. You were probably thinking that they would get you a position as a lawyer somewhere. And now it opened your world to a whole different path. So
Mhm.
on a scale from 1 to 10, how happy are you that your career took you in a different direction?
I would say between a solid 8, 9.
That's pretty
I
high. Yeah, I mean, that
yeah, there
is, that's very high because because you've been in it now for a number of years,
Mhm.
so all the pros and the cons to all of this, and taking that chance, you never know. You're taking a leap of faith, Um, but it sounds like it has been a really great path for you to take and has opened you up to a whole bunch of different opportunities within that position.
Mhm.
Now it's interesting because from what I gather when you're going to law school, you don't really always specialize while you're in law school. You can take some courses that maybe you have interest in, but it's not like when you go in for a business degree and you say, I want to specialize in marketing or I want to specialize in human resources. And it sounds like in law school, you sort of are getting a little bit of everything. And I've heard that sometimes you don't decide until after you graduate what area you're going to be in, which I don't know how you do that because then you got to learn that area. Is that kind of true?
Again, I think that goes back to not all law schools are designed the same.
Yeah.
I think some schools offer you a little more latitude with electives to give you that option. We were given the option for what they called concentrations, which would be designated on your diploma. But they were a very small sampling of your overall credits.
Hmm.
There were a few required classes, a few that you could backfill to fulfill that concentration. But even with the concentrations, they were very generic. So we
Okay.
had a litigation concentration. So you did some practical courses that put you up in front of, mock juries and things like that. But again, it was such a small fraction of the 90 some credits that your law degree is. It's still such a minute portion. um, but I did have some friends who have attended other institutions where they had a lot broader ability to do those things. But no, it's still pretty high level.
Yeah, yeah. It is definitely an interesting field. So my signature question to you is, could you give three pieces of advice for somebody who might be graduating from law school, or even maybe somebody who's in the paralegal field who's thinking about what they want to do? But what's three pieces of advice that you wish you maybe had known before you graduated, to help somebody out that might be listening or who might be, possibly thinking about a field or career path in law? What would you say?
So my first one would be um, get into the mode of exploring the whole concept of alternative legal careers. That was something that was not really talked about, at least when I was in law school. And obviously, that's where I landed. And there was definitely some stigma attached to it, at least initially for me. I thought it was a step back.
Hmm.
So definitely get comfortable with that idea and realize that there's a heck of a lot of us out here that are doing these alternative legal careers. And it's not a step back, it's not a sidestep, it's not a failure. So get comfortable with those ideas, get comfortable with some of those options. The second one would be to embrace the idea of employment agencies. They're not just temp agencies. There are so many great services out there that these folks are trying to place career minded individuals. It's not just putting people in factories and assembly lines and backfilling temporary situations. Like there are a lot of really great employment services out there and agencies that can help you get into these career modes. I would have never fell onto my company's website otherwise.
Right.
So that's something that is invaluable. And then the last one is understand what your desired work-life balance is, and really take a step back and look at what you want in life. Because for me, I didn't actually understand what that meant. And that's why I was like, yep, I want to be a prosecutor, I want to be all in. And now knowing what I've been able to accomplish, outside of my career, being an aspiring ultra marathoner and being able to go and run half marathons in several states and different countries, those things take time outside of your job.
Right.
And to have the ability to do that, to train and to have that opportunity and to foster a relationship with my now husband, and to be able to navigate when he was deployed.
Oh,
um,
wow.
those are things that I if I had a super high stress legal career on top of it, I don't think those things would have happened.
Right.
So to have that flexibility, to have a job that 9 out of 10 times when my workday is done, it's done. That allows me to have that whole separate side of my life where I'm not just working for the sake of working, and I still have an identity. Um, I didn't understand any of that in law school. So you get comfortable with yourself, and do you want to travel? Do you have a hobby that you want to begin or foster, or a skill that you want to improve upon? Because those are all things that are going to be demands on your time, and to understand what your clock actually looks like is a very important decision. And I think, not that I would have not gone down the route of my LLM, or not that I would have hit the pause button, elsewhere. I just think that I may have come to comfort with this decision a lot sooner, and maybe went to that employment agency a little sooner, had I had a better understanding of all of these factors.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I think that most people that probably go to law school think that there really is only one path, and they're not really
Mhm.
thinking about
Oh
anything
yeah.
else other than that one goal.
Mhm.
But I do think that down the road, once they take that road, sometimes they find that they don't have a life outside of that. And then, they stop and they start looking around and they're not sure where to go. And some just continue on that road and they're not as happy as they could be. So I think that just, having this podcast and allowing them to even have the conversation and listen and look into I think is great. So thank you so much for sharing your story, because I think talking about all these alternative career paths in law has been so informative. I mean, I didn't know it until I started talking to you. I had no idea, and I think that and it was a great story. I mean, I think that you have a great story here, and so I really appreciate your time today. It's been great, and I hope that those that are listening really, take this and do some research before you jump in, because knowing that there's all this out there that you could consider could really change the course of where you head. So thank you again for doing this. I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me, Karen.
Yeah. And for those that are listening to this podcast, if you're working towards your law degree, or maybe you're studying paralegal studies, but you're not sure what you want to do with your career path, contact Sharp Human Resources. We can certainly help you through guided assessments, conversations, research, so that you can explore and discover career paths. Sometimes you just need someone to talk things through with, be given direction, and then things start to fall into place. So do yourself a favor, go to sharphumanresources-buffalo.com and contact us today. Until next time, be kind, everyone. We need a lot more kindness in the world, and it starts with you and I. Thanks again for listening, and have a great day.